Hello Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. I'm back today with something a little different. I'm not filming my normal everyday or every week Flosstube. I'm not filming a tutorial. What I am doing is I am packing for an upcoming trip with my family for Memorial Day. It's a long weekend getaway. We've got a cabin in the mountains, so I've got time to stitch. Time to stitch in the car on the way there, time when I have a moment in the cabin. And so I'm going to share what I take with me on a trip. Now, a lot of times when I do attend a retreat, I take many of the same items. So it will cross over from long weekend getaway as well as retreat. So let's get packing. First, you're going to start with a bag. I like to get the large bags. I'm very much a bag lady. I love it when they have beautiful patterns. I fill them with all kind of nice things, cross-stitch related projects, what have you. But this is the one I'm taking today. It's wide, it's deep. It'll hold my project pouches very well without bending or distorting the patterns that'll be inside. That's what we're going to start with. So first off, I'm going to choose patterns. When I go on a trip, a long time ago, I learned to be realistic. I would go on a weekend getaway with my stitchy friends and I would take 5, 6, 7, 8 patterns, some just because I wanted to share and share the excitement of what I had purchased and what I were going to be stitching soon. But let's face it, I talk more than I stitch when I'm at a retreat with my stitch friends. But on a family vacation, it'll be a little bit different. I'm definitely going to stitch on the way there, and again, a little bit when I get to the cabin. So I've cut myself down over the years to 3 projects. Generally one that my current project. I like to take one that will be possibly a new start, especially if I'm at a retreat where there's a designer. I generally will buy a pattern and I like to start them to commemorate that retreat and the memory of starting it while I was there. And then I'll bring something smaller, like an ornament, but something small I can throw in a Q-snap and stitch in the car. So I have an old whip, a current project, and my small ornament. So those are the 3 projects that I'm gonna bring. And they nestle very well in this bag. So there's that. We're going to prop it up with some other things. So what else I like to take? Each one of my bags, when I have a project going, they generally have a needle or I'm about to start them. Projects on the go, projects I'm starting. They'll have a needle inside, the threads, the fabric, and the patterns. If it's the current project, it will also generally have a fabric orc catcher as well as a pair of scissors with a sheath because you don't want those scissor tips poking through your fabric. So what I also bring is a thread bed. These are great for stitching in the car. I can put them on the armrest, I can put them on the console, and so that way I can have one side for my orts and the other side for any thread I may be a color that I'm currently stitching with. That way they're not sliding everywhere, they're not on my elbow because that's where they're on the console, that kind of thing. So these are very nice because it's covered. This one particular one's covered with felt. The threads hold on it very nicely. So I'm going to tuck it in a pocket here on the side. I also take a Q-snap. This Q-snap's going to fit the fabric for the ornament I chose. And then I also like to take, I call these grime guards. They're not grime guards in the normal sense. I take felt pieces I buy at Hobby Lobby. They usually 33 cents, $4 depending on which one you buy. I kind of stick with this color or white. I cut one piece into 4 strips and I put them between my fabric for my piece and the snaps of the Q-snap. And every time I complete my stitching session, I'll remove these and I'll remove the piece from the Q-snap. I'm saying it taking too long to say it. But I'll remove it from the Q-snap because you don't want those, the fabric to hold any creases, any wrinkles from being on this Q-snap. So we're gonna pack this in. And these will be folded up in one of the pockets. I love pockets too. What I also bring is a spare pair of scissors. I keep these in one of the side pockets just in case. And then I also bring a spare pack of needles. How many times have I gotten away or taken something to work at lunch to work on, and then I fling the needle across the cafeteria room? I always bring spare needles. And then because I know that I am stitching a new piece, a new ornament, a new small on the way up, I'm going to bring a corner gauge. This one I got from Blue Ribbon Design. It has both 1, 2, and 3 inch gauge on it. I really love this one because it's see-through. I've since getting this one, I had ordered another one because I love it so much. And so I'm gonna pack this in the pocket. I also love this. It's a seam ripper. These cost less than $2 at Hobby Lobby or Joann's. It's not the seam ripper I like because I will not put a seam ripper on my stitch piece. Why? Because I think there's too much room for me to make an error. What I do love is this. I also at one time used to carry a toothbrush for the same thing, but if I'm having so much fun on the way up there, my husband just is telling a funny story and I make an error in my stitching and I don't find it till later. This is great for when you're ripping out, and especially if you're stitching with a darker thread like red or black, and it leaves filaments from that thread, the fibers from the thread in your fabric. It's like an eraser, that's what it feels like, but it can erase those filaments out. It can pull them from the fabric and then they're not there. So I always keep one of these not only by my stitch room table, but in my bag. And another thing, the older I get, the drier my skin is. And so I don't like to put, I know there's lotions out there for stitchers. I still don't trust them. That's just me. Nothing against those those that make the lotion. I just always keep this there because there's always dry skin around my cuticles and it'll catch the threads and I don't like it. So I keep one of these by my stitch table and take it with me when I go on a trip. And then I also take a thread catcher. Now this one's just a tiny little bowl I got from a pottery place one time. It's my favorite orc catcher. I usually take it with me on a trip. There's also a fabric one and my normal everyday stitch piece in that bag, project bag. But I'm gonna keep this for when I'm at the cabin. I won't use the fabric one, I'll use this one and it'll be whatever I designate as my little stitch nest while I'm away. And what else? Another thing that I love, Post-it notes. Not the small square ones, I love the rectangular ones. These are great for me when I'm car stitching. I know there's other projects out there and products out there, and I think there's a product that is like tape that you can see through, that you can remove just and restick like a Post-it note. I use these to help me to find my current position on my pattern. When I'm riding, we need a lot of work on the roadways here in the US. There's potholes. Almost every interstate, back road, county road, country road. If you live, or at least there is in the Southeast, this is a lifesaver for me because I can mark my spot on the pattern and I'm not doing like this trying to read my pattern, or maybe I am, but at least I have this there to keep me in the vicinity of where I'm at. So I keep these as well. I love them. And this, thank God, I have never had to use one of these. But I did have a friend at a stitchy meetup who had another friend that had a Tervis cup that did not have the clicky closure on the top of the lid. Her drink fell. We all know the horror. It was sweet tea. It got on her project. Someone had these and also a tied pin. She was able to whip that project out of her Q-snap and get that tied, and this is a tied wipe, get that tied onto that spot almost as soon as it happened, and thank God it did not stain her piece. But that's why I keep them. I hope I never have to use them, but they are in my stitch bag just in case. And then I also take my earbuds, which I don't have here in my stack, but those are great too when you're riding in the car. And if you're listening to Flosstube and you're watching all you enablers out there, I keep a notebook. I keep a notebook to remind me of things I need to pack, or things that I need to make sure, make sure that I'm taking on the trip, or places I'd like to see that may be on the way, maybe a stitch shop for a little side trip. Everything I keep in there. Or when I'm watching these enablers out here in Flosstube, I can make a note of any pattern that you're mentioning that I don't yet have. So I always keep a notebook. And another thing, even at retreats, I take a book just in case. Now this one I've been laboring away a little bit. I need to get it finished up. So I'm taking it on the trip. I keep a book just in case. If I've been stitching the whole way to the cabin, by the time I get there after a 4.5 hour drive, my eyes are gonna be tired. Not necessarily for reading, but there's the stress of straining and stitching. I don't know why there's a difference, but there seems to be. But even if my eyes don't get tired, I keep this for those down times, like right before bed or first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee, and I take a book with me. So I'm gonna pack this away. And then we gotta have light. So I pack my Q-snap. Now this is a Q-snap, my art light. I've had this one for a long time. It still works, but it's small, and so it's perfectly suited for traveling. So I'm gonna pack this in the corner of my bag, because you don't know if there's gonna be enough outlets in the place you're staying, whether you're staying in a hotel room for a retreat, or you're staying at a cabin, or if you're staying at the retreat and there's not sufficient lighting. We always take a drop cord. Now I will say more and more retreats that I've attended have gotten away from the lights and the drop cords. And I understand the reason. I've actually seen a stitcher trip over an extension cord. We like to be careful. We know they're there. It wasn't intentional, I'm absolutely certain, but we all know it's a hazard. It's on the floor. And sometimes, like one place I stayed, the electrical outlets were on the floor, in the floor, another issue. So I take this mainly for the cabin, but I've got an upcoming retreat and I have a friend who enabled me with her light. So I will be ordering a battery operated light so I don't have to take this one. So this one's gonna take a back seat. This one will probably be my family weekend getaway light now. And then I'll have a backup battery powered light to take when I go on retreats, because I don't want to be the reason anyone takes a fall. And I think that's it. So that's everything that I know that I like to take. It's not that heavy. I've got room in case I do find a cross stitch shop, which there is one on the way where we're going. And I might need to take a side trip. We know how that is. See, I like to get ahead of my husband. I like to help him plan the route, and that's after I've researched the cross-stitch shops in that area. So if you don't do that, take that tip from me. You'll love it. But anyway, I'm all packed. I'm all ready. I'm gonna keep this here on the dining room table. I gotta get to packing other things like a suitcase and the bathing suits, and we even got family t-shirts made up to commemorate our family weekend away. So I'm so excited, and I hope everyone enjoys this holiday weekend. And until next time, until that next Flosstube video, hugs and stitches. Bye-bye.